Could you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all for attending tonight's City Council meeting. Jody, could you call the roll?
Dennis.
Here.
Harold.
Here.
Hollenbach.
Here.
Odericio.
Here.
Phipps. Here. Robinette.
Here.
Urbando.
Here. Okay. The minutes from our last meeting were distributed prior to tonight for everyone's perusal. Were there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Correspondence. Judy, we have correspondence.
We do. First, we have received from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control was an application for a C1, C2, D6 liquor permit for Construct VG Group Limited, 1414 East Wooster Street. Records have been requested. Next, we have a few items regarding ordinance number 9031 were received and emailed to council prior to tonight's meeting. And lastly, a letter was distributed to council by former city attorney Mike Marsh regarding ordinance number 9031.
Mr. President,
Mr. Urbano.
before the lobby visitations begin, I believe it is extremely important for both the council and the general public to hear what was presented in Attorney Marsh's letter. You all have it in front of you there. As per Attorney Marsh's suggestion, I will be introducing two additional amendments to ordinance 9031, and I'd like to read them aloud now, just to set the record straight. So the first amendment will be that nothing in this chapter shall be construed as to mandate that any particular goods or services be provided. It is the purpose of this chapter that goods or services voluntarily provided be done so in a non-discriminatory way. So again, nothing in this chapter shall be construed so as to mandate that any particular goods or services be provided. The second amendment will be as such. This chapter shall not apply to any corporation, organization, or association so as to restrict its ability to organize its staff by employing only persons who support the mission of the entity. So again, this chapter shall not apply to any corporations, organizations, or associations so as to restrict its ability to organize its staff by employing only persons who support the mission of the entity. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Jody, do we have any other correspondence?
No.
Okay. That's going to bring us to lobby visitations. I'd like to make a few announcements. Number one, much like the last meeting, individual comments will be limited to 2 minutes. The 2 minutes will start after you arrive at the podium and give your name and address. And when the 2 minutes is up, the clerk will say time, at which point, if you have not finished, I would appreciate it if you would wrap up within 5 seconds or so. And then we will just move on and on and on. I would ask that everyone be polite and respectful, even if the person that's speaking is saying things that you personally disagree with. Also, for council members, as far as the record goes, we don't have our normal 7 microphones. So if you have something that you need to say, you need to make sure that you say it into a microphone, otherwise it will not be recorded for the record. So, and this evening shows why we need a new council chamber. Looking forward to that. Okay, with that, it brings us to lobby visitations. Jody, who is our first visitor this evening?
Lindsay Durham.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Jodrone, and I live at 853 Parker Street. I'm here tonight as a resident of Bowling Green to support ordinance 9031. As a woman, I'm sick and tired of men making decisions about women's health regarding issues they will never have to face. A woman's autonomy is her inalienable right. To quote Janet Parks of the League of Women Voters, of which I am a member, when women and those who can become pregnant can no longer make reproductive decisions for their own bodies, they are no longer equal individuals in our democracy. As much as I want to urge you to vote yes on this ordinance, I mainly want you to listen to the opinion of Councilwoman Phipps. While I don't know her position on this issue, I trust your experience as a woman in this field. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Jody, who do we have next?
Mary Hinkleman.
Hello, everybody. Mary Hinkleman, 217 South Church Street. I'm here representing the Bowling Green Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to mention that we have a holiday parade just a little less than 2 weeks away. November the 19th, we will step off at 9:50 a.m. and we will come down through our beautiful downtown. I'm happy to say we have 95 units this year. That's 20 more than last year. With a record number of bands, we have 10 bands and 8 additional performing units and a lot of floats. People work so hard on these floats. It's very exciting. You go on for 2 minutes about that, Mark, but I won't. I also wanted to mention 2 things. Volunteers, very hard to get volunteers. We're really close to getting the number that we need, but also fundraising. We currently have a fundraiser going on thanks to the Parklet Committee. We are auctioning 5 of our parklets for front row seating for the holiday parade. They come with a gift package, and we also have one up for raffle. You can get all the information from our website at bgchamber.net. It's as easy as that, right on our landing page, scroll down a little, and you can click right to where you want to get, like where you want to go. Rachel and Jeff, we already have bids on all of them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That's why we had all these people here this evening. So you can solicit for volunteers for the parade. So everyone see Mary after the meeting. What do we have next?
Wendy Kramer.
Hi, my name is Wendy Kramer, and I live on Route 6, 2582 Route 6. And I moved in with a guy that I thought was a decent guy after I divorced and had 2 children. This guy was great until I found out I was pregnant. When I found out I was pregnant, he told me I had to have an abortion and I wouldn't do it. So the whole time that I was pregnant, he beat me, my whole pregnancy. He would hit me in the stomach, he would come down with his fist, he would hit me in the face, and he broke my eardrum. Well, it's no surprise that after I had my baby, I found myself pregnant again. I'm not gonna say my choices were the greatest, but I wanted my baby. Whether he was a jerk or not, I wanted my baby. So I thought I would outsmart him. I went to an abortion clinic, and I had to see them before anything like that. I was supposed to get one. I didn't want an abortion. I told them that I was a hemorrhager, and they told me that it didn't have anything to do with an abortion. I'm not that stupid. Also, I had found out, because I was 8 weeks pregnant when I went there, that if I was over 8 weeks pregnant, they legally had to dismiss me upon an exam. So I went at 12 weeks pregnant. I took their little pill, and I was the last one to go in. When I went in, the abortionist, like I was gonna have an exam. And he did not do an exam. He started an abortion on me. He looked at his nurse and he said, write down she was 6 weeks pregnant. And then he had started an abortion on me without doing an exam. I went into shock and I lost my baby. And then that night, when I went home, I hemorrhaged for hours until I ended up in the emergency room. I just wanted to think about the other women that have gone through this and don't have the courage to step up. Please, vote this down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jody?
Jessica Carpenter.
Good evening, council members. As I read through this post-Roe Ohio Activist Toolkit, Abortion Advocacy in Your Local Community, I immediately took note of page 2, which reads, quote, "We encourage elected officials to go one step further by supporting and passing city ordinances. Ordinances outlast elected officials who may or may not still be in power as election cycles come and go," end quote. Based on the October 17th tweet from Pro-Choice Ohio's Twitter account highlighting this Bowling Green ordinance, this was clearly taken from page 3 of this toolkit that I just handed to you. Last month, Mr. Rubando publicly praised Columbus City Councilwoman Elizabeth Brown on Twitter for collaborating with him and thanked her for this, quote, "great advice and support," end quote, with this ordinance. Who is Councilwoman Elizabeth Brown? She's the daughter of Senator Sherrod Brown. She co-sponsored an ordinance in Columbus to stop funding crisis pregnancy centers and investigate, quote, "misleading messaging," end quote. She often refers to crisis pregnancy centers as fake clinics. She's an extreme abortion activist. She co-sponsored an ordinance which issued $26,500 of taxpayer dollars to investigate crisis pregnancy centers in Columbus. This Columbus ordinance is listed in your toolkit as an example of what to do in your city. This is Councilwoman Brown's way, and ultimately Pro-Choice Ohio and the ACLU Ohio's way of shutting down pregnancy centers in Ohio. This toolkit is a tool to attack pregnancy centers from all angles. It is clear that Mr. Rubando is collaborating with Councilwoman Brown and taking pointers from this dangerous toolkit, and it begs the question, where is this headed? My sincere concern is that if this ordinance passes, it is only a stepping stone to hostility and elimination of pro-life organizations in our community like the Nest and Her Choice. I genuinely question if this ordinance is what the majority of Bowling Green citizens desire for our community, and if it is really what Mr. Rubando is painting it to be. This appears to be a nationwide effort being pushed into our city, and we do not want it. I'm asking you to please put an end to this agenda in our beloved community for the sake of the unborn who are my future community members. Please vote no, and thank you for your time.
Just say it again.
Priscilla Coleman.
Hello, my name is Priscilla Coleman. I live at 2 Indian Creek Drive, Rudolph, Ohio, and I'm a retired BGSU faculty member. I've spent 30 years actively studying the psychology of abortion. I often serve as an expert witness in state and federal cases, assisting attorney generals as they defend abortion laws. My focus is on the science demonstrating abortion increases risk for mental illness compared to childbirth. Based on the literature, I firmly believe no organization or employer should be forced to make business decisions or counsel clients on a procedure that's been shown to be harmful to women. I also believe that Bowling Green should not target pregnancy centers who support women with unplanned pregnancies using punitive legislation designed to shut them down. Doing so is not evidence-based. Hundreds of studies have revealed abortion increases risk for substance abuse, anxiety, depression, and suicidal behaviors, among other disorders. I brought a table of several of the largest, most well-controlled studies from across the world, and they're going around, and I have extra copies of the handouts. I personally published a meta-analysis in the British Journal of Psychiatry. Results of 22 studies were combined, nearly 900,000 participants, and revealed women who aborted had an 81% increased risk for mental health problems. Nearly 10% of the incidence of psychological problems in the population was found to be directly attributable to abortion. For many women who do not experience a diagnosable mental illness, abortion can evoke powerful negative emotions described in a primary textbook for abortion providers. For example, symptoms of severe guilt include self-punishing behaviors and nightmares about killing or saving babies. Shame can involve relentless thoughts of being a bad person and fear of anyone finding out about the abortion. Finally, unresolved grief can entail continued emotional investment in the pregnancy and difficulty moving forward with life. These types of feelings likely occur because many women have abortions despite belief in the humanity. Okay. So many women may feel this way because there a large percentage, between 25 and 50% of abortion patients believe in the humanity of the fetus.
Time is up.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
I have handouts if anybody's interested.
Thank you.
Lillian Miller.
My name is Dr. Lillian Miller. I live at 301 Westwood in Bowling Green. I've been taking care of women. I'm a board certified OBGYN. I've been taking care of women for 31 years. I'm here to talk about the Amendment 3901. After reading the proposed amendment in today's political environment, this seems to be a tool to accommodate extreme abortion activists, to manipulate healthcare providers, and to attack the crisis pregnancy centers. You got the abortion advocacy toolkit. This amendment was taken straight out of the abortion advocacy toolkit. On page 4, it says, pass a local reproductive health non-discrimination ordinance by including reproductive health care decisions under the definition of sex. Women with unplanned pregnancies are terrified. The fear is overwhelming. Pregnancy centers allow women to take a breath, process, and make an educated decision in a supportive environment. Education at pregnancy centers is thorough and informative, covering abortion, adoption, parenting, and it diminishes fear for women. Women are not shamed, they are loved, and if they do choose abortion, they are welcome back for emotional healing post-abortion. Page 6 of the toolkit calls crisis pregnancy centers fake clinics that shame women, and there's a need to reduce the need for communities to turn to crisis pregnancy centers. The shame comes from the abortion. It does not come from the crisis pregnancy center. And I know this because I've repeatedly seen it over the past 31 years. I see broken bodies and I see broken hearts. 3 cases to share with you. One, a girl that was 14 years old in the emergency room that I met who had had her 3rd abortion. She took the pills, her hemoglobin was 6. A normal hemoglobin is 12. She lost half of her blood count. The second patient, an 18-year-old, she had a surgical abortion. She came home, she was standing in her driveway, she passed out, she was taken to the emergency room, she was operated on, she had a hole in her uterus, she had bilateral pelvic clots, they flipped up to her lungs, she was infected, and she was critically ill in the ICU. The 3rd patient, a 20-year-old who had a surgical abortion, she was brought in the squad by the abortion clinic with the speculum still in her vagina, bleeding. She had uncontrollable hemorrhage and lost her uterus. None of this has to happen.
That's time.
If the crisis pregnancy centers are not here to help these girls,
That's time.
who are going to help them? Please vote no.
Mary Walmer.
Hello, thank you for giving me the time. My name is Mary Balmer from Bowling Green, Ohio. And I just first want to start with the 2 things that are already in the PG ordinance, which are clinics and hospitals as places of public accommodation. So this ordinance will apply to clinics, hospitals, doctors' offices, and mental health offices as well. The other thing that's in it already is sex and pregnancy. So, looking at that, I want to address those on council who hold to the same values as we do in this room, most of us. First, I just want to ask you, those who are thinking maybe you might not vote for this. You have had the privilege of representing Bowling Green, and we thank you for all the hard work that you've done and the sacrifices that entails for this city. We look to you for leadership in this cause. If this ordinance passes with no opposition, it will be seen as a win to the opponents of free speech and build up their momentum to continue with their plan to set up obstacles for pro-life pregnancy centers and Christian counselors and physician practices. By the way, I just wanted to let you know, if you're modeling this after the ordinance that Columbus passed, they passed the same kind of ordinance. Funds a year later were set aside to investigate crisis pregnancy centers. Is that going to happen here? Who is truly opposing free speech here? Will there be any mental health counselors who will be able to help those teens who are thinking of gender transition? This is something really important because we can't just shove them into that category. They need to be receiving some counsel. So I also appreciate the fact that you know there are a lot of businesses that won't come to Bowling Green because of all the laws and regulations, and think about that too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Johanna Vandergun.
Hi, my name is Joanna Van Renterham. I live in Wood County and I'm a mental health counselor here in PG. A demand to mandate words is tyrannical. A demand to commit to language which is vague allows open doors to costly litigation. A demand of such language leads to an arena of issues for all those who do care. It could put many out of business in an attempt to defend themselves. Words make all the difference. Vague, unspecified terms leave a broad definition of discrimination. Business and professional fates could be at stake, as could the fate of those seeking help. Many in healthcare give their time and energy to help women in need because they care and want to see women experiencing difficult life circumstances live their best lives. In addition, efforts are being made to downplay mental health issues related to abortion. These efforts de-emphasize the impact of significant life decisions made in the heat of crisis. This is, in of itself, discriminatory against women. Do women not deserve complete informed consent before making such an impactful decision as abortion? Consider the research constantly being bantered around that 99% of women don't regret their abortion 5 years after the event. How could this be an accurate number when it is common knowledge that most decisions made during any other crises have a much higher rate of regret? It is never wise to make a decision in crisis. I have met women who have regretted their decisions to abort. They have asked themselves and me, will I be forgiven? Will I forgive myself? Will I ever see my child again? Some have had night terrors, and some tell me their relationships have been negatively impacted. It is hard to buy the rhetoric that abortive women don't experience regret. Does it sound likely to you that an industry that makes billions of dollars performing abortions will address the real correlation between abortion and mental health? I think not. Thank you.
Susan Mazzaros.
Your council members, Susan Masaros, Bowling Green. The phrases reproductive freedom, reproductive rights, reproductive choice, those have always been used by abortion advocates to advance their agenda. Several speakers at the last meeting, and I think a lot of people do believe that abortion helps women. But I would like to point out who really benefits from abortion. How do men escape responsibility when they help conceive a child? Through abortion. How do men who sexually abuse girls and women continue to prey upon their victims? Through abortion. How do sex traffickers and pimps keep their workers on the production line? Through abortion. Who refuses to listen to women who don't want to follow through with their abortion? Abortion clinic workers. Who rakes in billions of dollars in income each year, supplemented by hundreds of millions of US taxpayer dollars? The abortion industry. And why are so many corporations across the country now clamoring to send their employees out of state for abortions? Because it's cheaper than paying for a woman's maternity leave and a child's health care needs. Does this sound like something that helps or empowers women? Indeed, nothing has enslaved and exploited women when they're most vulnerable, more than the abortion industry. As a citizen of Bowling Green, and especially as a woman, I ask that you please reject this proposal. Please protect women from the enslavement and exploitation of abortion. And please support, don't criminalize the very people and organizations in our community who tangibly help women facing difficult pregnancy decisions. I appreciate your consideration of my comments as well as the references that I've provided. There's 4 pages, sorry. If I could just point out 2 of those references real quickly. I asked them on the second page. It's a 2018 compilation of investigations and lawsuits. Well, anyone can see the ones that I highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol Tyson.
Carol Tyson, City of Bowling Green. At the first reading of the amendment to section 3901, Mr. Rotundo acknowledged no complaints are identified referring to discrimination against the population specified in the proposed amendment. In the State House News Bureau on October 25th, Mr. Rotundo was quoted as saying that a community group in Bowling Green asked if there was anything the city could do to protect reproductive rights. He said, they had told me stories of applying for jobs even when they were pregnant and feeling like they were discriminated against while applying for jobs. However, pregnant women are already a protected class in the current city code of ordinances. Why is hormone therapy included in the amendment? This term covers a variety of conditions. Is the city attempting to legislate what medical treatments are acceptable? Including the proposed population seems to be expanding Bowling Green's discrimination laws to protecting medical treatments based on political opinion. At the last council meeting, a psychologist referred to a study of women's sufferings caused by denied abortions. Tonight, you heard Priscilla Coleman talk about negative effects of abortion on women. The medical community is divided regarding benefits and risks of hormonal therapy, which alters gender expression or affirms gender identity. Articles in the Hypertension Periodical and Annals of Internal Medicine report increased risk of myocardial infarction for transgender women, with an elevated risk for heart attack and increased risk for stroke after 6 years of hormonal treatment. Dr. Asaf Oren, a pediatric endocrinologist, reports that consequences are not really known for adolescents based on 20 years of treatment for adolescents. Will healthcare providers be vulnerable to penalties if they voice a medical opinion that is contrary to a political narrative? This ordinance does not make Bowling Green a safer environment for everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark Everly.
Thank you. What I'd like to say that unless the two ordinances
Sheriff,
are.
do you live here
Park
in
Everly, Bowling Green, sorry about that. What I'd like to say is that unless the two ordinance amendments to the ordinance are passed, what I will say next is probably will happen. Because the effect of this ordinance is not limited to a few organizations in Bowling Green. This organization affects all other organizations within the town. For example, BGSU has an all-gender housing. This housing option was created to foster an inclusive, safe, and respectful community where students can live together with any student regardless of sex, gender, gender identity expression, or sexual orientation. Because of this ordinance, heterosexual boyfriends and girlfriends now will be guaranteed forever the right to be part of this program, much to the dismay of the program. Another affected organization is the BGSU Resource Center. As it says in the website, the Resource Center's purpose is to provide program, education support to the entire community of BGSU, a place where a student can gather to foster learning and affirm their senses of identity, community, and collaboration. Now, thanks to this ordinance, someone who wants to leave the LGBT community will be able to receive education and support in their decision as part of the entire BGSU community. The center will also have available books and media in their library to help students during this emotional transition from the LGBTQ community. Books like Journey Out by Ken Williams and information from organizations like Change Momentum. This ordinance will also open up job possibilities and service opportunities in these organizations for people who have experienced a journey out. Finally, the BGSU Safe Zone Project, the Safe Zone Project that BGSU promotes awareness. And this, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Jason Dunn.
Jason Dean, Bowling Green, Ohio. I would like to use my allotted time to pose two simple questions addressing the concerns of business owners and your employer and other employers who are resistant to the requirements this amendment would enact. The first question is, do you trust your employees' judgment?
I'm sorry, did you give your address? I missed
I said Bowling Green, Ohio, like many others have.
it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't think I'm making a big assumption to think that you do. Whether these hypothetical employees are mopping the floors or signing the checks, you are trusting your employees with your livelihood. Their achievements as well as their failures determine your organization's success as well as its reputation in the community. You trusted them enough to hire them. You trust them enough to not fire them. So where does that trust begin and end? Do you trust them to use their sick leave to stay home with COVID? To see their doctor? If the answer is yes, but you do not trust their judgment when it comes to making the decision to abort a pregnancy, a decision that I assure you they are not taking lightly, then I'd say there's an irreconcilable hypocrisy in your logic of trust. I believe my second question applies to everyone. I would ask you to wonder to yourself if you can say with an absolute certainty that your life or the life of someone you love has not been made better by a person's decision to abort a pregnancy. Are you certain that nourishing opportunities would not have been missed? Are you sure that someone closer than you think has not been spared a living reminder of some horrible trauma? Absolute certainty. I chose these words because blissful ignorance is one thing and callous naivete is another. Thank you for your time.
Joshua Balmer.
Hello, my name is Joshua Ballmer. I'm at 349 Derby Avenue, Bowling Green, Ohio. I just want to come up here and say that I'm in strong support of the ordinance. I was in strong support of it when it was passed many years ago. And in that time, nothing happened to these organizations that are very concerned about the new clarified amendments to them. So once again, I'm in support of something that was passed many years ago that did not affect other businesses here in town. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Leah Ricci.
Hi folks, my name is Leah Ritchie. I live at 349 Derby here in Bowling Green, Ohio. I spoke to you at the last meeting. I continue to be a woman. I continue to be a business owner here in Bowling Green. I continue to be in support of the amendments to this ordinance. I'm still confused why I have to say that, but I hope that you will consider the safety and protection of all women in this community, all women, all people, all community members deserve to be protected under a non-discrimination ordinance. Thank you so much.
Miranda Douglas.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Miranda Ellison Douglas, President of BGO Pride Association in Bowling Green, Ohio. I can't believe in this city, this progressive and prosperous city, that we are having to fight against discrimination in this day and age. Having to prove the necessity of equality. Call it what it is, discrimination is hatred. Christianity is about loving and caring for each other and not judging others. Religions such as Presbyterian and Unitarian churches support the LGBTQ community. November 20th is Transgender Day of Remembrance, and I will be reading and honoring all 66 names of the transgender individuals in the U.S. whose lives were taken by hatred and violence since last November. Protections like this ordinance are so necessary to save lives. Please pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Ashley Holtz and Sheila Long.
Sheila Long of Bowling Green, Ohio. This is my daughter, Ashley Holtz of Bowling Green, Ohio. In 1986, I found myself to be a pregnant teenager. And through the help of the Bowling Green Pregnancy Center, they helped me bring this beautiful woman that is an asset to the world with physical, emotional, with help with all the things I needed as a mom.
Hello, it's good to be here. I like to think about what if my mom was friends with some of the pro-choice people in this room. At 16, it's certainly not convenient to be pregnant with a child. And so I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that there was no one that said she should abort me. But I'm here, I live a wonderful life. I have 3 girls of my own. And I'm a contributing member of society. I also, when I was 19, I became pregnant. It wasn't planned. I had excellent grades. I played high school soccer, went to college, did post-secondary, had huge aspirations of doing something with my life. And, not convenient either at 19 to be pregnant. But the pregnancy center came alongside of me. Someone recommended that I go there, and I heard for the first time my child's heartbeat. And they came alongside of me and supported me emotionally. And I know that I had a crib because of what they did for my mom. She didn't have the means to give me what I needed at the time. So instead of a laundry basket, I had a crib. Instead of nothing, I had diapers. And so I just would urge you to think about not abortion, pro-choice, or pro-life. Let's think about the resources that this community so desperately needs for women in a crisis pregnancy.
Protect these support services.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Michelle Peters.
name is Rochelle Peters from Bowling Green, and I'm here on behalf of Caitlin Weiss. She couldn't be here. It says, as a Bowling Green State University alum and a single mother, having access to a pregnancy center has played a huge role in the momentum towards success that I have made thus far. If it wasn't for the continued support, encouragement, and services that are provided from these centers, I don't believe that I would be where I am today. I'm currently finishing my master's at the University of Toledo in early childhood education. Sophomore year of college, I found out that I was pregnant. With overbearing weight of being in the middle of my college career, being a mother was the last thought on my mind. Abortion had been something I strongly considered, given the circumstances that I was in. Without having the courage to tell my parents, thinking it would cause more chaos in our lives, I needed somewhere to go to find support and confirm my pregnancy. A pregnancy center down the road from my university at the time welcomed me with open arms and shared comfort, compassion, and courage to have this hard conversation and move forward with my options. The atmosphere in these centers is overwhelmingly peaceful. I was given care necessary for the health for myself and my child, and emotionally supported throughout my first trimester until I received care from Mercy Health leading up to my son's birth. The center also would check in and share genuine care in conversation. My son turned 3 years old last month. He is overwhelmingly the best gift I have ever been blessed with, and I would do it all over again to have him. He is my motivation, and my love for him overpowers all struggles of parenthood. The pregnancy center was the start of our journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Galen and Nancy Limes. Galen and Nancy Limes.
They're here, but they weren't signed up to speak.
Okay. We'll move on.
They just wanted us to know they were here. Well, welcome.
Linda Rue.
Hello, Linda.
Hannah Servideo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Servideo. I work for the aforementioned Pro-Choice Ohio. And I'm joining tonight from Cleveland. To the council members, I want to uplift the legal memo that was prepared by Professor Rob Salem at the University of Toledo. I believe you all received it prior to this meeting. It seems as if those who spoke against the ordinance previously and tonight were misrepresenting the impacts, and Professor Salem does an excellent job of calling out the baseless fear-mongering that has been perpetuated. In quick summary, as Councilmember Rabanda reiterated, this ordinance does not force anyone to provide services that they do not want to provide. It simply requires that if a service is provided to the public, it must be provided without discrimination. And 2, this ordinance exempts religious institutions from hiring those inconsistent with their values. However, I do want to say as an aside, crisis pregnancy centers already hire people who have had abortions, sometimes intentionally and sometimes because statistically, every single person in this room knows and loves someone who has had an abortion. I'd also like to use my time to speak briefly in response to those who seem to find harm in caring for others who believe different things than they do. I've been a clinic escort for many years. I have spoken with thousands of patients seeking some sort of reproductive health care. Some have been pro-choice, some have been pro-choice throughout their process, and others have been anti-choice, seeking abortion care and anti-choice. Do I treat them any differently in practice? No. You may not be fighting for me or for your very own neighbors and friends because you think that your values take precedence, but we are in fact very much fighting for you. To quote Professor Salem's memo, Mr. Castellano, the lawyer that spoke at the last hearing, may object to the idea of people that he does not like having rights, but that is not related to the proposal at hand. This comprehensive ordinance will protect everyone in Bowling Green, and I urge a swift passage. Thank you very much.
Kristen Hattie.
Good evening, council members. I'm Kristen Haiti, a Harrisburg resident, an abortion advocate for the last 9 years, and a pro-abortion parent. My apologies for not attending the previous meetings. I had naively assumed that ensuring less people can be discriminated against based on their reproductive choices would be an issue for everyone to get behind. Instead, I watched a recording of many familiar faces, people who shame, harass, and stalk patients accessing abortion care in Toledo, many of them who are in this room. Fight against guaranteed protections for pregnant people. You've heard from people like Peter Range and Dean Canestraro. You've heard them use their offices, titles, and large coffer of funds to threaten municipalities like Bowling Green into doing what they want. They use their power and privilege as a cudgel to force the public to adhere to their religious beliefs. The irony of self-styled pro-lifers arguing against ensuring protections for pregnant people should not be lost on any of us, and we should not treat anyone who argues to be able to use their religion to discriminate against others. We should treat them with an incredible amount of suspicion. That should infuriate every person sitting here and watching, especially those of you sitting on council. They believe they can threaten you to get their way, regardless of public sentiment. They have seen the swell of support for reproductive autonomy after the fall of Roe and fear their power grip may be slipping. Their values do not dictate my rights. Their religious beliefs do not change the moral good anti-discrimination ordinances bring. Their lies and misinformation do not change what should be a very easy yes vote for you all. No one is shutting down crisis pregnancy centers. I urge you all to stay the course, expand protections for your constituents, and reject their lies that are, according to local professor and attorney Rob Salem, absurd and detached from reality. You can all clap now. Thank you.
Sal Pazito.
Hi, my name is Salvador Pazino, and I'm a Toledo escort. I live in Toledo, Ohio. And I just walked down this gauntlet of what our patients had to deal with all the time. I see enemy faces that want to take away women's freedom, and it's a sad, terrible thing that they have to deal with. Look into your hearts and know that it is just healthcare. Simple, it is. Thank you.
Jean Castellano.
Thank you. Thank you, members of council, president of council, and council persons. My name is Eugene Canestraro. Means basket weaver in Sicilian language. But I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and we represent a lot of individuals who belong to Right to Life groups and the organizations themselves. I also would like to thank Jody Sickler, who provided us with information vis-a-vis our recent FOIA request, our Freedom of Information request. There's been a lot of talk tonight about things shutting down and things staying open and prohibitions against abortion. One of the things that the FOIA request did provide was insight into the mindset of why this amendment to your city ordinances is actually before us. And in the thread that I read between Councilperson Rubando and Pro-Choice Ohio, Councilman says, after speaking with a few other members of our council, we believe that passing the local reproductive health non-discrimination ordinance would be a good first start. Now that's pretty telling, where this is headed and what it was designed to do. This was never designed to solve a problem. You've heard that repeatedly in all 3 sessions. There is no problem. If you want to keep the crisis pregnancy centers open and abortion legal, you don't have to do a thing, but vote no on the proposed amendment. It's not a problem. All those folks that came up here and in support of pro-choice would not be harmed whatsoever. But if you do find the ordinance as originally written and not as amended by Mr. Marsh, who I understand sent an outline of the changes supporting everything that I had already written to you before and indicating that it was non-constitutional, you will find yourselves on the wrong side of this. Please listen to your own counsel and reread Mr. Marsh's suggestions. I already did it to you.
Thank you very much.
Please vote no.
Valerie Jenkins.
Hi, I'm Valerie Jenkins. I live on 426 North Main Street in the city. I'll just make this really quick. I'm a new mom, and for my daughter, I want to be on record in support of this amendment. With the remaining time, I'd like to use that to remind the people in this room who are like-minded and support this, that tomorrow is voting day, and please vote. This should be eye-opening. You see everybody here, they're gonna be voting. I hope you're voting too. So vote like your rights and our lives depend on it, and please vote yes for this amendment.
Spencer Myers.
I appreciate your haste.
Yeah. Spencer Myers at 114 South Main Street. Abortion and gender affirming care both save lives. I really want to emphasize gender affirming care. This has become a referendum on abortion, which I understand. But the basket weaver fella said no one will be harmed. Gender affirming care is part of this. Do not discriminate against people who have received gender affirming care. It has saved their lives. I am against workplace discrimination. I am for protections against discrimination for workers. I'm a Bowling Green citizen. If Bowling Green wants to make sure its citizens have every opportunity to be happy and contributing members of society, then it must make sure its citizens are not discriminated against for making a decision that most likely saved their lives. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Bob Cooley.
My name is Bob Cooley, and I'm from Bowling Green, Ohio. I am dismayed by this attack on pro-lifers. You see, I know this woman who worked at the Bowling Green Pregnancy Center who was so moved by the women that she served that she started taking her whole family to an inner city church in Toledo on Friday nights to serve there as well. It didn't matter what decisions were being made by the people in that impoverished neighborhood. This woman and her family loved them anyway. And then there's the nest. As a volunteer there, I have been blown away by the love that is poured out on these young families by Ms. Crane and the other people there. Do you know I once witnessed them love and care for a pregnant woman and her 2 kids, even though the woman was considering an abortion? Then when the mother announced that she was no longer pregnant, you know what happened? Those people at the nest continued to love that family and assist them in any way that they could. These agencies have been providing hundreds of thousands of dollars in free childcare, diapers, food, and other benefits so that young parents can raise their kids, finish their college degrees, and thrive. Meanwhile, you, Mr. Lobondo, a young white male, was likely sitting in his office reading a toolkit on how to destroy your work, thereby putting more barriers in the way of the impoverished families that they serve. Is that how you define public service? You need to go volunteer at these places so that you can learn about the real selfless, loving lives that you have been taught to despise. Real lives, as opposed to the suspect suburban moms that you hide behind. You see, Mr. Lobondo, women were not put on this earth to be used as your political props and targets. Their contribution to our community should be honored. Not only will your legislation bury our city in legal fees, but it will destroy the loving diversity that now exists in Bowling Green, the diversity that truly serves people from every faith, situation, and background. Thank you for your time.
Teresa Nyberding.
Hello, I'm Teresa Nyberding. I live on Rock Main Street here in Bowling Green. It's November and it's like 70 degrees outside, and the Mississippi River is drying up, and eggs are like, what, $4 a dozen now? So if I decide not to have a child, that's my decision. I don't really want to bring a kid into this world right now. And I'm gonna not do that by any means necessary. And if that means getting an abortion, then I will. That being said, I'm in full support of the ordinance and the amendments made to it. I have always thought crisis pregnancy centers to be predatory. Many people have already said that pregnant women are very much stressed and in need of protection and vulnerable. And I think pregnancy centers prey on that. I think if they want to provide services to new mothers, they should be called new mother centers. But if I am pregnant and I don't want to be and I'm having a crisis, I probably don't want to go to a crisis pregnancy center because they're probably not going to help me not be pregnant. So yeah, I support the amendments. I support anything that will help prevent discrimination here in our city. And I thank you guys all for your time.
Veronica Falter.
I'm Veronica Falter, I live in Perrysburg. I appreciate the person who came up here and acknowledged Christianity, because based on that, I can now read from God's word. And we proclaimed that when we said the Pledge of Allegiance, that this country is founded on Judeo-Christian values. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female, he created he them. Genesis 1:27. The gentleman that said it is just healthcare, so says the person who was not aborted but was allowed to live and speak. Demeaning and degrading children to the level of a pronoun is nothing short of demonic. The agenda has been identified. When women are forcibly impregnated to harvest organs from newborns and to sell them to those who are depraved for sexual pleasures and then abort them at their own will for money, that is no longer reproductive choice, that's outright murder. It always has been murder. I had more to say, but at this moment, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nathan Mulch.
My name is Nathan Mulch, and I'm from Bowling Green, Ohio. I currently teach ethics at BGSU, including medical ethics, political philosophy, and other related fields. I want to focus very briefly on the structure of some of the things that have been said here, most notably the implied slippery slope argument that is being used in opposition to this amendment, namely that the function of this amendment is to allow for further legislation down the line. However, the amendment itself must be considered in isolation. If there are further actions that want to be taken, they can be taken. There will be a different vote on that with different considerations. Whether or not this amendment has an original purpose to eventually target crisis pregnancy centers does not change the actual function of the text in front of you. Now, regarding that later function, I want to point out that as far as what this will do, this gentleman, whose name I don't want to butcher, tells us that nothing will change if we fail to pass this amendment. Likewise, so long as discriminatory actions are not taken by any entity, business or otherwise, then similarly, nothing will change. This is not a function of whether or not abortion is acceptable or not. This is not a function of what is right or wrong from a moral sense, from a religious sense, etc. It's a question of what people are allowed to believe, what people will be discriminated for in their beliefs and their choices, and whether or not a person living in a pluralistic society can affect their livelihood for those reasons. Simply put, if an organization simply allows people their beliefs, allows people their individual choices, they will not be affected by this. And I strongly encourage you to pass this amendment because of what it does in its isolation. Thank you.
Thank you.
B. Fields.
Hello, everybody, and hello, council members. My name's B. Fields. I live in Bowling Green, North Maine. Yes, you can write that down. And I am in support of the ordinance. I just want to say it will protect people like me who need gender-affirming surgery and hormones because I have been affected personally being born in a body that doesn't reflect my own identity. And I need these protections because just a few seconds ago, someone, a woman, said that I'm demonic. That doesn't make me feel very safe. It doesn't make me feel like I can be honest with myself. And even though there are some Christians here today that I know will have my back in private, I think in the political realm, I'm not so sure of that. So I urge you to keep all the wording here because it will not only protect people who do want an abortion or to leave, it'll also protect people like me. And they are here in Bowling Green. So thank you very much.
Marcy Lichtenwald.
Good evening. My name is Marcy Lichtenwald. I'm currently a resident of Lucas County, but I'm a former BGSU student, and I've been an active member of the Reaper Rights community for the last 7 years, having gotten my start right here in Bowling Green. I'm also the former interim president of the Toledo chapter of the National Organization of Women. I believe that Bowling Green has an excellent opportunity here to be a model to other Ohio communities by showing that it will protect all of its residents based not just on race, ethnicity, religion, age, and sexual orientation, but in broadening the language to protect sex discrimination by including individuals' reproductive health care decisions. Decisions that include whether or not to become a parent and the various needs one might have in that journey, such as medical treatments to help with the conception process, individual needs during a person's pregnancy, which often includes time off that exceeds available PTO an employer might offer, the needs and accommodations of breastfeeding parents, and additionally, the needs of someone seeking abortion care for the various nuanced and very individual reasons abortion is a necessary part of reproductive care. All of these needs are private, personal, and necessary, and should not be dictated through the coercive acts of pregnancy and parenting discrimination so many folks, predominantly women, encounter from their employers, landlords, and other institutions that determine their livelihood. The health and well-being of your constituents should not be jeopardized because there are no protections in place, ensuring they will not be discriminated against because of their sex. I applaud you, council members, here today for taking this initiative to protect the interests of your constituents and really listening to the concerns of your community. Because we would not be here today if this was a non-issue amongst your pregnant people and parents and residents. I find it strange that so many opponents at this meeting are focused on crisis pregnancy centers. Given these centers specifically cater to pregnant and parenting individuals, I would think there would be an overwhelming support knowing that this amendment will protect pregnant people and mothers, which is the cornerstone of their mission. I find it even more strange that Ohio Right to Life, who you heard from at your last meeting, is opposed to an amendment that centers. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for hearing us out, and we really appreciate you being here tonight and listening to us.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Reinickle.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Reinickle. My husband Patrick and I have lived in Bowling Green with our 3 boys for 12 years. They've grown up in this town with the children and grandchildren of many of you in this room. We're here tonight to voice our support for the proposed amended language to our city ordinances, which is being made purely to further cement our city's commitment to prevent discrimination against all people. As parents of both a special needs child and a queer child, we are thrilled to see BG adopt such inclusive language. The purpose of this language change is purely to ensure that people are protected by preventing specific discrimination, whether it be for their sex, male, female, neither or both, or for their reproductive beliefs and decisions. That is it. To choose to fight inclusive language for fear that your rights or religious freedoms are somehow being infringed upon is hypocrisy of the worst kind. There is nothing in this language that takes rights away from anyone. It just eliminates forms of discriminations that have, up to this point, not been addressed by the city ordinances. Your imagined losses, those that live nowhere in this text, pale in comparison to the actual direct discrimination the current city ordinances allow for. Opposition to the proposed language is, at its core, an overt expression of the desire that some people have to continue to discriminate against those who do not share their beliefs or really are just not like them. At least they think they're not like them, or their families, or their friends. However, 1 in 4 women seek abortion health care in their lifetime. These women are part of your communities, your congregations, and your families. 1 in 4 is an awfully large number of women to discriminate against. One of the worst examples of these imagined, or in this case, whole cloth fabricated impacts of the proposed language change has to be the utter lie that organizations like Her Choice will have to shut their doors as a result. There is nothing in this language that will force any business to close its doors. The government should be protecting freedoms.
All right, that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mino?
I'm Hannah Mino. I live on Napoleon Street in BG, and I'm a student at BGSU. I'm an out-of-state, out-of-city student, and coming to this campus, it is discussions like this where I'm not sure if I would make that choice again. It's scary as a woman and also part of the LGBT community, knowing that if you become pregnant, if you've already had an abortion, choose to have one, you could lose your housing. I stay in an apartment. You could get kicked out, or a workplace could not hire me or fire me because I need medical care. That should be a private decision between me and a medical professional. Also, I am graduating soon, and I would like to say that when I consider a new place to live or staying here, and when I consider where to work, I make sure that I will be protected and that they have specific legislation and policies that protect me. And I know that it will not be changed. And with the political climate, that I will not just be out of my livelihood and out of my home unexpectedly. Thank you.
We only went one beyond the bottom of my page, so good job, everybody. That concludes lobby visitation for this evening. That brings us to the introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President.
Mr. Robinette.
From the Finance Committee, I have two ordinances. An ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio, during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2022 and ending December 31, 2022. And an ordinance amending and adopting section 33.04 of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio, relative to pay scales for seasonal employees.
Mr. President,
Ms. Fitz.
on behalf of the Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee, I have 4 ordinances and resolutions this evening. The first is a resolution implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code, establishing and describing the boundaries of the BG Community Reinvestment Area in the city of Bowling Green and designating a housing officer to administer this program. I also have an ordinance establishing interim zoning of M2 general industrial zoning for the approximately 103.09 acres of land located on NIMS and recently annexed to the city as petitioned for by the Mauer Family Farms LLC. I also have a resolution approving revisions to the bicycle facilities and destinations map in the transportation section of the comprehensive master plan of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio. And the last is an ordinance accepting annexation of approximately 103.09 acres of land in Center Township, Wood County, Ohio, from the Mauer Family Farms LLC as petitioners.
From utilities, I have an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Services and the Utilities Director to sign an LPA agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation and to request qualifications and to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for design, engineering, right-of-way acquisition, construction, and other services related to improvements on South Main Street from Ordway to the South Corporation limit for water main replacement, pavement resurfacing, and intersection improvements at Napoleon Road, and declaring an emergency. Okay, official reports. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. I have just a couple of items. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to those here at Job and Family Services this evening for accommodating this meeting. We didn't really give them a whole lot of notice, But they did a really great job of preparing the room, so we're really grateful for everything that you've done to make this work this evening. Thank you. Council, it won't probably come as any surprise where I would like to take a couple of minutes to recognize the efforts of city employees in response to the storm episode that occurred over the weekend. Again, it was a significant episode that resulted in a loss of power to a good portion of the city. And once again, I was certainly impressed, thankful for the efforts of those city employees that responded in a timely fashion and very quickly restored power. When I got to the site Saturday evening, I was amazed by the number of employees that had responded in that moment. And also, I was amazed by the representatives from diverse city departments. So when I got there, there was a good number of people representing the electric division doing what they were doing. There were representatives of Public Works who, once they were notified what the need was, they scrambled and provided support equipment for the recovery effort. Representatives of our fire division were on site. Representatives of our police division will help me control operations. Our municipal administrator was there helping carry carts to protect the switch gear. So this truly was a group effort, and I appreciate the effort, all of the efforts. As I thought about this over the weekend, I felt like this was a really beneficial and timely reinforcement to me of what I perceive to be really my most basic responsibilities for the city of Bowling Green. I was struck by the fact that this response at its core needed people. We invested in people. They needed resources to do the work that they did, or the work that they do. And it's our jobs as legislators and elected officials to provide those resources. So when we think about our priorities, I think it's important to remember that this is it. I mean, public power, public safety, these are things I think that is very important for us. And it's timely in the fact that as we begin to prepare the budget that we'll very soon present to council, you'll see a significant focus on these things. So again, and with this, I'll get off my soapbox, but I did just want to highlight those things that I think are important for all of us to remember at all times. Finally, I will say that most of you, I'm sure, are aware that tomorrow is election day. If all of you have not yet voted, I would encourage you to please recognize and exercise this very important constitutional right. We all know that elections have consequences, and there are issues that have national and certainly have local implications. So I encourage everyone in our community to exercise this very important right and get out and vote. That concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Are there any questions for the mayor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Municipal Administrator, Ms. Treader.
I have no report subject to your questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Treader this evening? Okay. Acting City Attorney, Mr. Marsh. Any questions for Mr. Marsh this evening? Okay, I see Joe is not here. Public Infrastructure Director, Mr. O'Connell.
Appreciate the mayor's comments about the power outage at the substation and the help that the fire department gave us and Public Works as well. Just to give you an update, so that was roughly roof on top of the concrete slabs, structural support up there that blew off. Removed and the transformer was re-energized and we can get back to power. Outage was about 2.5 hours roughly. We still have some work to do to get some things prepared there. We have some quotes right now to get the roof replaced, to get that put back on. We did get a PO issued today, about $35,000 to get a contractor out there to get a roof on in the next 2 weeks, I believe. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks it'll be watertight again. There was no damage to the building itself or the transformers or the yard circuits out there. So overall, pretty fortunate that nothing more substantial happened, and just about the way from that was. But again, thanks to the fire department and Public Works for else to respond and help us out. That's all I have. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. O'Connor? Thanks a lot. Okay, that brings us to council committee reports. Do we have any council committee reports?
The Committee on Community Improvement met today, and we have suggestions for the distribution of nonprofit funds that we allocated from ARPA.
Okay.
Mr. President, the Sustainability Committee is going to be meeting on Thursday, November 17th at 5:30. Is that time still open?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have the agenda set for the meeting, but we will try to answer it the next day or two.
What day of November was that?
I believe it's the 17th, next Thursday is what I'm going for.
17th. Okay. A couple of reminders. Let's see, we will be having 2 committee meetings prior to our next council meeting, which is on November 21st. One at 5:30, which will be a committee of the whole meeting, purpose of which is to discuss the city zoning code update. And then at 6:45, following that and before the meeting, there will be a public hearing on ordinance 9037. That's all I've got, unless someone's got something else. That brings us to the reading of legislation, Jody.
Legislation for first reading. Resolution 3838 for first reading. Resolution implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code, establishing and describing the boundaries of the Bowling Green Community Reinvestment Area in the city of Bowling Green, and designating a housing officer to administer this program. Resolution number 3839 for first reading. Resolution approving revisions to the bicycle facilities and destinations map in the transportation section of the comprehensive master plan of the city of Bowling Green. Ordinance number 9094 for first reading. Ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022.
No, we moved the clock back 1 second.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 9040 its second and third readings.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded, Jody. We did vote, yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Hollenbach.
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Ramanda.
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended for ordinance 9040.
Ordinance number 90404, second and third readings. Ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt ordinance 9040.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Jody?
Hollenbach.
Yes.
Odericio.
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Ramando.
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9040 is adopted.
Ordinance number 9041 for first reading. Ordinance amending and adopting section 33.04 of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio, relative to pay scales for seasonal employees. Ordinance number 9042 for first reading. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Services and the Utilities Director to sign an LPA agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, and to request qualifications and to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for design, engineering, right-of-way acquisition, construction, and other services related to improvements on South Main Street from Fordway to the South Corporation limit for water main replacement, pavement resurfacing, and intersection improvements at Napoleon Road and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 9043 for first reading. Ordinance accepting annexation of approximately 103.09 acres of land in Center Township, Wood County, Ohio, from Mauer Family Farms, LLC petitioners. Ordinance number 9044 for first reading. Ordinance establishing interim zoning of M2 general industrial zoning for the approximately 103.09 acres of land located on Nims Road and recently annexed to the city as petitioned for by Mauer Family Farms LLC.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
we need to set the required public hearing on this ordinance. Jody's proposed Thursday, December 8th at 6:30. Thank you.
Okay, legislation for second reading. Resolution number 3837 for second reading. Resolution authorizing the sale of obsolete or unfit municipally owned personal property which is not needed for public use by internet auction and authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into a contract with GovDeals Inc. for ongoing internet auctions for the calendar year 2023. Ordinance number 9033 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing the utilities director to enter into an agreement with AMP Inc. for the renewal of the Efficiency Smart Program. Ordinance number 9034 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing the utilities director to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for supplying annual inventory requirements, underground and overhead lines insurance, and sale of scrap materials in 2023. Ordinance number 9036 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing the utilities director to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for repairs to the Carter Park Water Tower and the Western Water Tower.
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 9036 its third reading.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Jody?
Odericio?
Yes.
Phipps?
Yes.
Robinette?
Yes.
Urbando?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Hollenbach?
Yes, the rules are suspended for ordinance 9036. I move to adopt ordinance. You have to read it again, don't you? Okay, go ahead.
Ordinance number 9036 for third reading. Ordinance authorizing the utilities director to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for repairs to the Carter Park Water Tower and the Western Water Tower.
Now, I move to adopt ordinance 9036.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jody, could you call the roll, please?
Phipps?
Yes.
Robinette?
Yes.
Urbando?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Hollenbach?
Yes.
Odericio?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9036 is adopted.
Ordinance number 9037 for second reading. Ordinance authorizing the placement of 328 East Court Street on the local historic register with historic overlay zoning as suggested by the Historic Preservation Commission. Ordinance number 9039 for second reading. Ordinance creating and adopting section 35.38 of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green, creating the residential renewable resource RRR installation account and the residential renewable resource RRR generation account to provide annual incentive payments for certain renewable energy generation. Legislation for third reading. Ordinance number 9031 for third reading. Ordinance amending and adopting section 39.01 of the codified ordinances of the city of Bowling Green concerning unlawful discrimination.
Mr. President, I move to adopt ordinance 9031.
Okay. Well, is it seconded?
Second,
All right, it's properly moved and seconded.
Mr. President?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 9031.
Okay.
You all have before you the letter from former attorney Mike Marsh, as well as the amendments. But first off, I would like to amend section 39.03. First, I would like to remove section B. So section B reads that it is unlawful for a business, establishment, or place of public accommodation to print, publish, circulate, post, or mail directly or indirectly a statement, advertisement, or sign which indicates that the full and equal enjoyment of the goods, services, facilities, privileges, advantages, and accommodations of the business, establishment, or place of public accommodation will be unlawfully refused, withheld from, or denied an individual, or which indicates that an individual's patronage of or presence at the business establishment or place of public accommodation is objectionable, unwelcome, unacceptable, or undesirable. The reason for that is this was put into the non-discrimination ordinance 12 years ago. However, after extensive research and various discussions, it is clear that this is an attempt to limit speech. So it was recommended by our former city attorney that that is removed. In conjunction with that, I would also like to amend section 3.03 to add the following statement. Nothing in this chapter shall be construed so as to mandate that any particular good or services be provided. It is the purpose of this chapter that goods or services voluntarily provided be done so in a non-discriminatory way. Again, referring back to the letter from former attorney Mike Marsh, it says, quote, "It has never been my reading of section 3903 that any particular service be required, but only that any service or product that an entity chooses to offer be done so in a non-discriminatory way." So the additional language that has been proposed makes that as clear as possible. So again, we are just trying to add clarity onto that. Finally, I'd like to make an ordinance make a motion to amend section 39.06D to include the following statement. This chapter shall not apply to any corporation, organization, or association so as to restrict its ability to organize its staff by employing only persons who support the mission of the entity. Again, I will refer you to the letter by former city attorney, Attorney Marsh, that states clearly, the language used is directly from the leading case on the subject, which was decided in September of 2018 and known as Our Lady's Inn versus the City of St. Louis. So this language is directly used from the leading case on that subject. In conclusion, with the adoption of these amendments, our former attorney Marsh says, "I believe our ordinance would not violate the freedom of association, including negative association, that has been upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court numerous times, and we would not be guilty of purporting to regulate the content of either speech or written communication." Finally, it is his opinion that if amended per his suggestions, Chapter 39 would be within constitutional boundaries. So with that, I would like to offer those amendments.
Second.
Okay. So Council Member Rubando has recommended 3 changes, amending the current ordinance before us. One, removing section B from 39.03, and then adding language to section 2 of 3903 and section 3 of 3903, and we have a second. Is there any discussion on these proposed changes? Hearing none?
Robinette,
Yes.
Urbando,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps. Yes.
Okay, so ordinance 3031 has been so amended.
Mr. President,
Mr. O'Dorsey.
I move to adopt ordinance 9031 as amended by substitution.
Okay.
Mr. President, hasn't it already been,
Yeah, we already have a motion and a second. We're still in the discussion phase.
Mr. President?
Mr. Harold.
I move that we amend the amended ordinance as per what I had passed out earlier. So I move that we change section 39.01 to redefine from what was proposed sex, and then also to add categories for discrimination, or discriminatory. Would it be appropriate for me to read this?
Well, let's see if we have a second.
It's a good question.
So Mr. Harold is recommending an amendment to the definition of sex and the section on discrimination. And everyone's seen this, right? Everyone's copied this.
Everyone has had the opportunity to see.
Okay. All right. So,
Mr. President, I'll second.
okay, you may now begin with the discussion.
I can read it fast.
You can read it fast, but
All right. The definition of sex in the current legislation is pretty involved. It defines sex, then it defines because of sex, and then it defines reproductive health, and tries to fold in all of the additional discrimination categories. So this just simply simplifies it. It doesn't change any of the categories. It just simply simplifies it. Sex means male, female, or intersex, and then parentheses, neither male or female or characteristics of both. And then discrimination, or discriminatory. This will include the categories that were folded in through layers of the definition of sex that was in the ordinance as proposed. Discrimination, or discriminatory, any act, policy, or practice that, regardless of intent, has the effect of subjecting any person to differential treatment as a result of that person's actual or perceived 1, race, 2, ethnicity, 3, color, 4, religion, 5, national origin, 6, immigration status, 7, gender, 8, gender expression, 9, gender identity, 10, sex, 11, pregnancy, 12, age, 13, sexual orientation, 14, creed, 15, ancestry, 16, disability, 17, military status, 18, veteran status, 19, marital status, 20, family status, 21, physical characteristics, 22, HIV status, 23, source of income, 24, genetic information, 25, any illness arising out of A, pregnancy, B, childbirth, or C, related medical conditions, 26, breastfeeding or pumping, 27, use or intended use of products or services for A, contraception, B, sterilization, C, fertility treatment, D, pregnancy, E, termination of pregnancy, F,
hormone therapy, in parentheses, including that which alters gender expression or affirms gender identity, on parentheses. Or G, medical treatment that treatments that affirm gender identity. Nothing in this division shall be construed to require an employer to provide health insurance benefits for products or services related to the above. And so that's the amendment. To summarize, my intent here was to simplify and produce a functional definition of sex so that it doesn't have 3 layers to it, and eliminate those layers. And then C, produce an organized list of protections in one place while not changing any of those that were proposed in the ordinance. So the intent, define sex, and also there's a one-stop shop in terms of what are the different discriminatory actions. And so that was the intent. It's, I would say, not quite a friendly amendment, which has to do with commas or something, but it's in keeping with, it just tightens it up.
Okay, so Councilman Harold has brought forward that he would like to amend the language in ordinance 9031 as he has just described. We have had a second. Is there any more discussion on this?
I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm not sure what this would do legally. I guess I would like an opinion from our city attorney.
Mr. Marsh, does this change the nature of the definition? Or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Just as a FYI, I did.
What do you want?
Just for information, I did bounce this off of Mike Marsh to see if it was okay, and it passed legal muster. I included that in my email to each individual councilman.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Romando.
We've had multiple people come and speak today, and I really appreciate that. And there are many individuals who asked us specifically to keep the definition as is. They found that it was extremely helpful, extremely protective, and extremely inclusive. And they stated in their statements, please keep the definition as is. So.
Mr. President?
Go ahead.
I appreciate that, but they may not have seen this amendment to know that it would still capture those protections.
Any other discussion on the proposed amendment? Hearing none. Jody, could you call the roll?
Romando,
No.
Dennis,
No.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
No.
Odericio,
No.
Fitz,
No.
Robinette.
No.
Okay. Are there any other recommended amendments to ordinance 9031 before I have Jody call the vote?
Mr. President?
Go ahead.
I don't have an amendment, I have some comments.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to congratulate this council for removing an unprecedented and unnecessary threat to Her Choice, the Bowling Green Pregnancy Center, the SBG, and similar nonprofit organizations. With the adoption of this amendment tonight, the prayers of the faithful have been answered. But I also want to recognize everyone, especially the former and currently acting City Attorney Marsh, who worked hard to draft the substitute amendment we just adopted tonight. After studying the language, the original amendment for the past 5 weeks, listening to the comments presented 3 weeks ago and tonight, and reading many email messages, I'm compelled to note that the core issue that the original amendment raised is freedom. I'm speaking about the freedom endowed by God and protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. More specifically, I'm speaking about the protection provided by the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly clauses of the First Amendment. The concerns of the many supporters of the Pregnancy Center, the Nest, and other nonprofit institutions are real and justified. Specifically, the concern that the language of the original amendment, intended or not, threatened their First Amendment protected ability to operate as expressive associations that are entitled to protection under the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly clauses of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. We know that the 2018 case of Our Lady's Inn versus City of St. Louis from the U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Missouri, that threat was real. And the plaintiff in that case, Our Lady's Inn, is a pregnancy center similar to her choice, and the case is on point. It's clear to me that new section 39.06b removes the threat to the pregnancy center. But to me, this was the second best solution to the problem, as a withdrawal of the original ordinance would have been a better solution. As I mentioned during our October 3rd, 2022 City Council meeting, I believe that ordinance 9031 was unnecessary. Why? Because as we know, Bowling Green first passed an anti-discrimination ordinance in 2009, and this council further amended the anti-discrimination ordinance last year, codified as Chapter 39 of the Bowling Green City Code. Our anti-discrimination ordinance is indeed important. Significantly, Bowling Green has done a great job of recognizing the needs and concerns of its diverse citizenry, and has one of the most broadly written anti-discrimination laws anywhere. Importantly, Chapter 39 of the Bowling Green City Code includes 25 enumerated protected classes. In terms of the protections our code provides to protect citizens against discrimination, we are leaders. Our anti-discrimination law should be celebrated, lauded for its breadth and completeness. But our code is not broken, deficient, or in need of fixing. Indeed, I do not believe there is a single category of person, pregnant or not pregnant, in Bowling Green who is not clearly and specifically protected by Chapter 39. Further, many, if not most, of the issues addressed by Chapter 39 are additionally covered and made redundant by Ohio and federal laws, both of which provide even more protection against discrimination. For example, Ohio Revised Code, Section 3781.55, entitled Breastfeeding in Places of Public Accommodation, provides that, I quote, a mother is entitled to breastfeed the baby in any location of a place of public accommodation where the mother otherwise is permitted, end quote. Short, clear, and concise, and this law was adopted in 2005. Our anti-discrimination laws cover everyone, and Ordinance 9031 did not create any more protection than is already provided by Bowling Green or Ohio federal law. What it did instead was open the door to an unconstitutional attack on businesses and organizations simply because their beliefs do not align with the beliefs of the authors and sponsors of this legislation. I'd also like to address the allegation by a member of this council 3 weeks ago that threats were being made against the city. Citizens who believe that their rights are being violated by the government have an absolute right to seek redress through the courts. That is how our republic operates. Stating one's intent to ask the courts to overturn an unconstitutional law is not a threat. It's simply the exercise of a constitutional guaranteed right to protect the freedoms provided by the Constitution. In this case, the First Amendment. We've heard passionate support of the Bowling Green Pregnancy Center from those who have been served by or who give their time, talent, and treasure to the center. They were justifiably concerned by the ramifications of Ordinance 9031 as originally introduced, and until a few moments ago, this council had done nothing to allay their concerns. I would have preferred a no vote on the original ordinance and maintained that such a result would have in no way left anyone unprotected by Chapter 39 or by the Ohio Revised Code. As I said at the outset, Chapter 39 of the Bowling Green City Code is one of the most broadly written anti-discrimination laws in Ohio. But sadly, we did not need to put ourselves in this position. We could have resolved this by simply explaining the significant scope and breadth of Chapter 39 of the Bowling Green City Code to those concerned, and better spend our time on doing what the charter directs us to do: city business, improving roads and sidewalks, making our community safe by ensuring the police and fire department. police departments have the resources they need, completing the important work of updating our zoning code and promoting economic development. Tonight, we successfully curtailed what was, until the adoption of the substitute amendment, a direct attack on the First Amendment rights of her choice, and SBG, their staff, clients, and supporters, and people generally. A law that would have threatened the freedom of association and expression, endowed by God and protected by the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly clauses of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I assure the citizens of Bowling Green that I will aggressively reject any future attempt by this council to strip citizens of rights protected by the U.S. Constitution. Thank you.
Any other comments?
You want to start that second?
Well, the best chance you have at applause is the applause that comes before.
I just wanted to echo what Greg said, and then also, all of you here are an example, constitute an example of the legislative process at work. Regardless of whether this should have ever been introduced, concerned citizens met, spent many hours researching and meeting to come here and have an effect on their representative government and decisions. That's the way it's supposed to work. And I want to commend each and every one of you, those who spoke, those who didn't speak, on being a part of the process. And I also want to commend each and every one of you for pretty much adhering to the 2-minute limit. And I can tell you from ample experience, that's not an easy thing to do. And also I want to commend you for, by and large, being exceptionally civil. So you should, regardless of the outcome of the vote, you should rest assured that this government, this organization, the way that our government is set up, works, and you're part of it.
Any other discussion on ordinance 9031?
Mr. President?
Amanda.
I believe wholeheartedly in this council, and I know that we can, chew gum and walk at the same time. I think the robust agenda can show that we can provide for the city, we can build roads, we can make sure we have a robust fire department, and we can also ensure that every single citizen in this city is protected. I think having people speak today shows that people did not feel protected with our current non-discrimination ordinance. I think saying that we have a pretty good non-discrimination ordinance is not good enough. In the city of Bowling Green, we strive to be the best, and I think that this non-discrimination ordinance is one of the best in the state of Ohio. So I am proud to support this. Thank you.
Mr. President.
I need a gavel. I've never felt the need for a gavel.
We were gonna get you one.
Mr. President, I would like to speak in support of this ordinance as well. I believe firmly that defending the rights of the citizens of Bowling Green is part of our business as city council. I can tell you that this ordinance, even before it was amended, has affected people in the city. We used the city ordinance to expand rights at Bowling Green State University in negotiations with the administration about 10 years ago. So this is an important action that we're taking. It is going to expand and protect rights for our citizens here in Bowling Green.
Any other discussion or comments before I call the question? So, it has been moved, it has been seconded, it has been amended, and so now we will be voting on whether or not to adopt ordinance 9031 as amended by substitution. Jody, could you call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Harold,
No.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Odericio,
Yes.
Phipps. Yes. Robinette,
Yes.
Urbando.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 9031 is adopted. Excellent. Is there any other business to come before council this evening? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.